Hello, hello. All right, so we're going to get started. I'm excited about today. It's quite a bit of information. All right, so how's everybody doing? I figured maybe you guys are at lunch and you could join me today. So, we are going to talk about questions parents have each step of the IEP process and in regards to the special education process. Okay, so it's a really important topic, and I am excited to be talking about it. All right, so if you are new to this group or page, actually, this is the page, isn't it? All right, let me go back. Oh, I was just showing you guys my picture. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Raven Woods, and I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks the IEP, and I help parents gain the knowledge and the confidence to become the CEO of their IEP meeting. So if you are new to this page, know that we have an amazing group at Autism Mama Rocks the IEP group, so make sure you join that. And also, I want to get to know you. So post a 1 below if you are new to listening to me, and post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. So questions parents have each step of the special education process in regards to their IEP. Important, important, important. So you will get a shout out if you guys share, and I want to make sure that we share this with as many people, obviously, as possible. So hopefully you guys are doing well, and we're going to get going with today's topic. Hopefully you guys are ready. Make sure to click notifications so that you guys know when I'm going live. Normally I will post about it, but sometimes I don't. So make sure that you click notifications, okay? And also make sure to post that 1 below if you are new and a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. All right, so we're going to start off with evaluations. We're going to go through this kind of whole process, okay? I got my notes here. We're going to really kind of dive into this and a lot of the questions that parents have. And this is something that you can use now with everything going on with COVID-19 and all that kind of stuff. But it's also stuff you need to know in general, okay? So you don't want to not know this information. It's crucial. It's important. It's going to impact you. It's going to impact your child. And you need to know the process. The process never changes. It doesn't matter what type of disaster happens. It's just everything that I'm doing on my IEP challenge over in the group is what really needs to be done right now in regards to COVID. All right. But in regards to the whole IEP process, this is, kind of what you need to do in the beginning and what needs to happen going forward. And it's questions that a lot of you may have. So I have my highlighter, I got my notes, so we're going to get started. All right, so first things first, evaluation. Does your child qualify for special education? Have you had that first evaluation? If you haven't, now's the time to actually start requesting that. They're going to tell you you have to hold off. That's fine. Start bothering them now, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with them saying, hey, we don't really have to address that right now, okay? You want to find out what tests and other evaluations have been considered for your child. Hey, Tara, how are you? You want to make sure you understand those tests. Their tests have kind of been replaced with what's called assessments. And you want to make sure that you know what types of tests and evaluations are done on your child and or have been considered in regards to what have they already had and what were they. Okay, so for example, if you get a psychological evaluation, in that evaluation, it should tell you what types of tests were done. I highly recommend that you look them up. And sometimes it'll give you how to really understand what it means. But in general, you have to understand how to read an assessment. All right, know what standard deviation is. Hi, Sally, how are you? And what the mean is and a bell curve and that sort of thing, okay? The next thing, just in regards to evaluations, you need to know how the information all right, is going to be used to plan your child's education. So you went and you got an evaluation, or you are going to have an evaluation. And once you do, you need to find out how that's going to be used for navigating and putting into an IEP, more than likely, and what the plan is, okay, for your child's education. I have advised my group, especially in this 30-day challenge that I've been doing. Today is day 18 that we're going to do. And I've been letting them know in this process that they're being guided through in these 30 days in regards to what to do right now. You have to think in your heads right now that your child is going to need an evaluation the minute school starts. If you can, go get an IEE now, which is an individual education plan, all right? It's an evaluation, really, all right? So if you feel that your child has sensory issues and other things that's in regards to OT, go get an OT evaluation by a licensed occupational therapist. If your child has speech issues, do that. Go and get one from a speech therapist. The number one evaluation I always love to suggest, because it's very important, other than getting diagnosed by a developmental pediatrician, that's the best person to diagnose, okay? A lot of people say they go to a psychologist. Well, a psychologist isn't typically a doctor, and to diagnose, you have to be a doctor, okay? So in regards to these evaluations that you're getting, you want to make sure if you can get an IEE, do that now, ahead of the game, okay? The number one that I've been talking about that is crucial, that is a psychological as well, all right, is the psychoeducational. That is the psychological combined with the educational piece put together, all right, the best test. Assessment, whatever you want to call it. So that's a good one. The next thing is your child similar in regards to the assessments that have been given to them, okay, to a group, all right, on which the test was normed, okay? So for example, a lot of times in a test assessment, all right, they're called assessments now. Some people still use the word test, all right? So for example, in reading, like a DR A level, okay, those are measured by letters, okay, and then those letters mean what they equivalent to a grade, all right? So for example, if an assessment is done, all right, and it shows that your child is on what's called a GE level of their DRA, which is typically where they are and in reference to grade equivalent, grade level, okay? Then there's a IRL, okay? And that is their independent reading level, all right? You see how this can be confusing? So the independent reading level is actually where they are. That's where they're reading, all right? And the GE is their grade equivalent in regards to a whole group of children in their age, okay? So big difference. Hi, Jennifer, how are you? So there's a big difference there, all right? And understanding that and the difference to where that is in the test, all right, you want to make sure that you understand where your child is, not where they score in regards to a bunch of other children, all right, of their age. So it's important to know that, but as far as impact of disability is concerned, it's where they are, okay? So that's their independent reading level. So within all assessments that are given, you want to understand what the scores mean. You don't want to just read low, below average, low, average, etc. You know, you want to understand what that means and really comprehend how that is possibly affecting your child, okay? So that's really important to understand. The next thing we're going to talk about, hey, Nicole, how are ya? Is your IEP and the developmental goals, okay? So what is your child's disability, All right, so answer that first. And what are the disability related challenges that your child has? What is affecting them and their progress in the general education curriculum? Okay, these are questions that many parents need to ask themselves in moving forward in the special education process and understanding it right now so that when things start back again that you have a good understanding of that. Okay. And the next thing is, what are your child's current levels of academic and functional performance? So that's your PLAF, all right, your present levels of academic achievement and functional performance, okay? You need to know that. That is where your child is right now, okay? And it's super important to understand where they are right now, okay? So if you guys are on here, make sure you share this. And if you're new, post a 1 below and post a 2 below if you're an oldie book goodie, okay? All right. So the next thing is, once you understand where their present level of academic achievement and functional performance is, which you should be able to pick up your child's IEP right now, all right? And over in the group, we've been talking about for the past 3 days on how to clean your IEP house. And that has to be done right now because, hey, Grace, how are you? That has to be done right now. And if you want to post questions, go for it. I'm going to do a Q&A right after this, okay? But I want to get through the content first, all right? So go ahead and post your questions. I got you. All right, so understanding that present level is where they are right now, all right? And any assessments that they had, make sure you understand where their individual, all right, score is, not in comparison to other children of the same age level, okay? The next thing you want to do is ask yourself, what goals will help my child learn the skills or behavior he or she needs to make a meaningful educational progress? So meaningful educational progress, okay? So as a parent, we typically have lots of opinions and thoughts in regards to what our children need. And we are the best judge of that, if that's the word you want to use. However, I have found that a lot of parents that I have worked with and am working with currently, and I've definitely talked to them about this, is you have to keep emotion out of your IEP thought process, okay? I know that's difficult. It's something you have to learn, and it comes with time because we love our children. We want the best for them. We want to serve them as best as we can. We want them to learn. We want them to succeed, etc. And so a lot of emotion goes into some of our thoughts and how we react and what we do in that IEP meeting. And one thing when it comes to emotion in life is amazing, right? We hear about, you have to show emotion. You have to show emotion. People want to see emotion, right? But people relate to emotion. However, in the IEP process, okay, emotion gets in the way. It is a bad thing, okay? It is something that will hold you back. It is something that will change how you do things. And the PPPN that I teach, you know, like when you're planning and preparing, presenting, persuading, and negotiating, presenting and persuading goes out the door when you bring emotion into any part of the IEP process, okay? And I'll tell you something. What I used to do is I used to bring emotion into when I would review my daughter's IEP. And I made all kinds of mistakes. Then, and I'm the type of person, I will read it and read it and read it again because each time something different comes up for me. So I always encourage parents, don't just read the IEP and say, oh, okay, I agree once you get home just because you're not signing it at the IEP meeting. You want to make sure you take a good week and read it I would say 2 to 3 times a day, different times, and really go through it. Highlight it. Each time you read it, highlight things. And I always keep a Sharpie or a highlighter with me. I got green, yellow, orange, pink. I got them all. and I highlight everything, okay? So make sure that you go through things and take your time, all right? Because you're going to find different things each time you go through it, all right? But one of the things you really need to think about is what goals will help your child learn. Where do you feel that they're struggling? Look at their progress reports. What do they say? How do you know that they're accurate? Is it measured by data, which is how it should be measured? It should never be measured by classwork, all right? Unless the classwork is coming home to you and you're able to visually see it, okay? So if you want to put classwork, just to have that there, it needs to say classwork as measured by, and then it can say the teacher's collection of the classwork, parental signature of seeing the classwork, whatever you want to put in that IEP, you can put in. There's nothing holding you back to putting anything in to your IEP, okay? And you want to make sure that everything that has to do with your goals, as we talked about yesterday, that there's no percentages in there, okay? That there's the word consecutive is not in there. That's a bad word. And there's other words too. Like, what did we talk about yesterday? In given a visual. Okay, well, what's a visual, right? We talked about that yesterday. Those types of things need to be out of your IEP goals, okay? There's so many more, but, we talked about that yesterday, so go watch the video. So think about the goals, okay? And that your child is going to learn, that you want them to learn. Look at their goals now. Look at their progress reports. Start looking at things and go back 2 years, all right, and see, have they improved? Are they making progress? Are they not? If they're not, how do you know? Make sure that there's always data collection as measured by data collection, okay? Moving on to the IEP kind of development of the process here, the special education process. We already covered kind of evaluations of the things you need to ask yourself, the questions. We kind of covered like the IEP goals just a second ago, right? So now we're moving on to kind of the development part of the process, all right? And you want to ask yourself, what supplementary aids and services does your child need to participate in the general education setting? And what that is what I'm getting ready to put out. Supplementary aids and services is accommodations and services, accommodations, and modifications, okay? So what services, accommodations, and modifications do you believe that your child needs in order to participate in the general curriculum and the general education setting? Some people call it inclusion, okay? All right. So the next thing you want to ask yourself in the development of the IEP is, how are those accommodations and modifications that are currently on your child's IEP working? Are they working for your child? And if they are, how are they working? Okay, so always ask a question off a question, okay? Because then you kind of dig a little bit deeper into things, all right? So you want to think about what you are really wanting. And now that we're in this kind of standstill, it's a good time to really evaluate what services, accommodations, and modifications your child may need now because of the change that's going on right now. All right. And then look at the accommodations and modifications that are in place right now in the IEP and figure out if they're working, and if they weren't, and if they weren't, then why, and do they need to be adjusted? And with kids, with special needs being out of the educational setting for 6 months is crazy. And so you definitely want to go back to that evaluation process. All right. You want to get an evaluation the minute you get back into school. And like I've been talking about over in the group for the challenge, is you want to put that in the team's ear at least a month beforehand, okay, when you're emailing on a weekly basis, which is what we're doing over in the group for the challenge. All right, so the next thing in the development of things, you want to ask yourself, what accommodations and modifications does your child, what is suggested in the most recent evaluation summary? So you want to ask yourself, what accommodations or modifications does your child's most recent evaluation summary report recommend? So what you're doing here is, first you're asking yourself, all right, what accommodations, modifications, services, supplementary aids does my child need, in your opinion? Okay. Then the next thing you're doing is you're asking yourself what services and accommodations, modifications are in place right now in the IEP. All right. Do you see how you're moving around here? And then the third thing is what is suggested. All right. And what is, given to you in writing in the most recent summary report of evaluations that were done on your child. Okay. And always remember, you need an evaluation each and every year. You have a right to request an evaluation, a reevaluation every year. That's in every state. Okay. You just put in an email requesting it, and you want to put in detail what types of evaluations you want. You don't want to just put evaluation. All right. So we're going to move on to the development of state standards for academic success. All right. And this is important as well. The whole process is important, There's something on my computer that's bugging me. Okay. All right. So is there a regular education teacher involved in your child's education? All right. And if so, what is their place? Is the special education teacher more in tune with things, or is the gen ed teacher more in tune with things? And if so, what is their place? You want to ask yourself that. All right. The next thing is you want to ask yourself what goals or objectives that are on your child's IEP today, right now, will address participation in the general education curriculum. All right. You want to make sure that you are asking yourself questions in regards to your child and your child's IEP to hopefully get them into the gen ed class as best as possible. The goal is to include them, right? There's some situations that can't happen, and that's okay too. A more restrictive environment works for some kids very well. A lot of kids, split their time where, kind of core subjects like maybe reading and math is done in a more restrictive setting, and then everything else is in the gen ed setting. So know that you can be open to that and make sure that is part of your IEP if that's what you feel is needed for your child, because really it's all about the learning. So they can socialize elsewhere, and if they learn math and reading in a more secluded setting, then definitely go with that. Okay. The next thing you want to ask yourself is, what can you do at home to support your child's academic progress? And obviously that's a huge thing right now to ask. All right. So look at your child's IEP, look at the goals. All right. If you have questions on if they're appropriate or crap, definitely set up a discovery call with me, which is free, and we'll go from there. But you want to make sure that your goals are in place. You want to make sure that your present level of academic achievement and functional performance is correct. If you don't agree with the present levels, you feel that something's not right about it, that it doesn't feel right to you in your gut, then you need to send an email saying that you disagree with the present levels of academic achievement and functional performance, and you want to specify what it is you don't agree with and why. All right. And then you need to state that you need to reconvene to address that issue. All right. So another thing is, in the general education area with, when you're talking about gen ed teachers, all right, is your child learning in the gen ed classroom? All right. And do they understand what is going on? Are they functioning appropriately, would be the better word for it. All right. So like I said, the next thing is the goals and objectives on your child's IEP. Will they address participation in the general curriculum and in the gen ed setting? So you're going from, is there a regular education teacher involved, okay, at your IEP meeting? And do they understand your child's academic ability? And you want to know what their place is, okay? Then you want to move on to what goals and objectives are on your child's IEP so that you can understand if their participation in the general education curriculum, and regular education classroom really is what it's called, um, it is appropriate. And if it's not appropriate, what's not appropriate about it, and what is going on that needs to possibly be changed. That doesn't mean your child needs to be taken out of the gen ed curriculum. It just means that an accommodation and modification needs to be put in place so that they, acclimate better and do better within that setting, as far as, participating, as far as, answering questions, like other children. Do they need time to go out of the classroom for possibly sensory-based issues? They need a timeout kind of thing. Not a timeout as in a punishment, but a timeout as in, okay, get me out of this classroom. It's too much. I need a break. Is there a place for them to go and be for a couple minutes, 5-10 minutes or whatever, and then come back to the gen ed classroom because they've kind of gotten themselves together? And that is an excellent accommodation put in place, because it really helps kids understand that if something doesn't go right, I have an outlet. I have a place to go that I can calm down and get myself together. They process that, maybe not in so many words, but they do process that, okay, I'm able to decompress. It's kind of like when we're mad, we need time to decompress, get out of my face. This isn't the time to talk to me, Same thing with kids. So especially with sensory-based issues, they need a place to go, get themselves together, and then they go back to the classroom, that they're still included. All right. And that's actually a normal thing. And I find that it's not so much an accommodation, even though it is. It's something that all humans need, a break sometimes, All right. So the next question you want to ask yourself in regards to the development and the state standards, I guess you can say, for academic success is, what can you do at home? And we talked about this just a second ago, but I got backtracked because I backed up a little bit. So what can you do at home so that your child can make even more progress? All right. You want to ask your teachers now, if they're checking in with you on a weekly basis, if you're not mandated to have virtual learning, which those states and those people who have that are lucky. But you want to make sure that you ask that now. This is the time to actually ask that. But of course, you want to ask that during the school year. But it's really important to ask it now, right? So that's a really important question to know right now, because that will help you in educating your children right now. And one thing I've talked a lot about over in the group with the challenge is to know kind of what to do each day and during the week, is not so much what the teachers are sending you in those little, paperworks and, things to do and different websites and, printouts and that sort of thing. Use them, sure. But what's going to really help you is go back to the IEP. What are the goals? Hopefully your goals are good, but go back to the goals. Start teaching your child what is in those goals. All right? See if you can challenge yourself and then master it before they go back to school. So those are the things that you need to be working on. You can look at your IEP and what the goals are. You can look at where they are in their most recent progress report and follow that. It's a super simple strategy that you could do instead of get confused, instead of get frustrated of what the heck do I do? What do I teach? What am I doing? Which it already is a stressful thing because it's not something that many of us are used to. You can just simply open up that IEP and get out that recent progress report, look at them together and build. All right, start using those as goals. If you start out with, say, 2 or 3 a week, and once those are mastered, move on to the next one, or you can pick, for example, one goal out of each academic area, and they don't have to be in order, just check them off once you mastered them, and then once you go through them all, if you have time and you go through all the goals and they're mastered maybe, then you want to go back and do it again so that you can make sure that they've retained that information and it's still there. If not, you review and you do it again. So that's an easy way to know what to do. You can use those things that the teachers are sending you every week, which I find is just stupid, at least from what I've gotten. So I'm going off goals and then building off of the goals because I think that they they can be built off of. You know what I mean? So like a lot of goals, I always say should be very specific and to the point, but all goals for you, when you look at them, can be built off of. Okay? All right, so those of you who are joining right now, post a 1 below if you're new, post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. I want to say hi. If you haven't joined the group, Autism Mama Rocks IEP group, definitely do that. So continuing. All right, so we're going to talk about IEP development, LRE, in regards to LRE, which is the least restrictive environment. Hi, Monique. How are you? Welcome. So one of the things you want to ask yourself in regards to that is, what is the placement in the least restrictive environment where your child's services will be provided? All right. So if they're in the general, hi Marcella, how are you? So if your child is in the least restrictive environment, I'm guessing the gen ed classroom, where are their services being provided? Okay, that is OT, PT, speech, dance therapy, music therapy, whatever it is they're getting. Okay, and make sure that you understand where that's being given. That should be in your IEP. All right, if speech is coming and taking them out, where are they going? Where is your child going to be? And if it's PT, where are they going? Is that done in PE? Some kids are. Is that done in a certain room? That you want that put into your IEP, and you want to know where those services will be provided. All right. The next thing, moving on with that, is does the least restrictive environment statement, okay, in your IEP explain why and to what extent the full participation in the regular education classroom is or is possible. All right, so what that means is in your child's IEP. All right, so for example, the kids like I was talking about that maybe have split time. All right, it needs to state how many hours. All right, so if there's 6 hours out of the day, if your child's doing 3 hours in the gen ed setting and 3 hours in the special education setting, it needs to state that. It also needs to state for what subjects are they learning in special ed, in the more restrictive environment, and then in the gen ed classroom. So what are they learning in each? Okay, and that's why it says why and to what extent. Okay, so that's important to remember. The other thing that you want to ask yourself, all right, is what can be provided in the regular education classroom so that your child can remain in the regular education classroom. Okay, so that again goes back to accommodations and modifications. Very different from each other. Okay, so you want to find out, or it should be in your IEP, what can be provided, what is provided, and go from there. Okay, so find out what is provided, which is in your IEP, and then find out in your mind, figure it out if you can. I always say go observe your child within the school setting once you can do that. But you want to make sure that you understand what can be provided. And that may be different, guys, this time around because your child has now not had 6 months of school come August, right? So make sure that you understand what those provisions would be, all right? And this will help support your child in the best way possible, okay? And, it's all about the individual child and their unique needs. And then, of course, their impact of disability. It all comes down to the impact of disability. So let's move on to ESY. I know in many places ESY is not off the table. So you want to find out, number one, is ESY still on the table if things open up by a certain date? And you want to find out how your child is going to be deemed eligible since school is not in session right now, you know? That's why also over in the group for the challenge, I've been telling them, normally if it's not in writing, it never happened. Well, right now, if it's not on recording, it never happened. So just remember that. The number one thing you want to look at is the eligibility piece and find out how that's going to be found out. What are they wanting from you to be able to have your child participate in ESY? And if your child has, hi Jessica, how are you? If your child's participated in ESY in the past, then it's a lot easier. But that video will be huge. And if you're following the challenge, you know that in your weekly emails, which is also in the challenge, you will provide impactful videos if they present themselves within that week. All right. And this is what can lead up to the qualification of ESY if that's going to be an option in your area. All right. And then you want to look at what data they're going to go by, which is why you want to provide those videos. So what data are they going to go by from the previous year that your child was in school? And then what data are they going to go by in regards to home and data that you actually have collected? All right, in regards to notes and what you're doing and having things on video. All right. So the next thing in regards to ESY is if your child needs ESY services. Okay. Some kids do not. All right. So it looks like I froze. Can you guys see me? All right. I froze and then, okay. Is it good? Give me a thumbs up. All right. So with that said, in regards to the last part of the ESY, you want to look at is your child's needs for ESY services. Is it something that they're going to be able to meet their needs this year? I'm just talking about this year. All right. So if your child needs ESY services, what's going to be available to them? All right. What is it that is going to be provided to them, especially with everything that's gone on this year? All right. So normally you would ask yourself, what are the different options, which the school systems will typically say, oh, we give ESY between this time and this time. Okay. Well, that's not, in fact, true. ESY can be expanded. It can do all kinds of stuff. All right. So, I've said this to you guys in the past. My daughter used to do, she did therapeutic writing. She did a drama program for special needs children. It's all about what's needed and appropriate for them. And you want to get creative and figuring out a way to present and persuade those types of activities is pretty simple with some practice, and we will learn that. All right, so let's move on to progress. All right, we have 3 different areas after this. So how will progress on your child's IEP goals be measured? We talked about this. You always want to have data collection as measured by data collection. That's what it needs to say, as measured by data collection. I don't care what else you add. You have to have as measured by data collection, because data collection is what you can physically see. And you want to be able to hold it. You want to be able to see it. All right. As in, what does it look like? You can even put into your IEP that you want the data written out and graphed, put onto a graph so that you can see the up and down of how they're doing. All right. That is super, super, super important. All right. And it's a way for you to really visually see what's up. The next thing is the rate of progress shown on the progress report? Does it lead to the child mastering those goals within a time period. All right. Whatever that time period is, usually it's the year. Is the progress reports showing that the progress is substantial enough to allow that child to master that goal at the end of the year? All right. That's kind of important, right? Um, and then what will the IEP team do? All right. If you think your child is not making meaningful progress, God help you when you bring that subject up. It's a fun subject, in regards to how they react, but it's not a fun subject as in why is this happening, you know? Um, as far as the IEP team, they do not like to hear that, and they come up with every excuse in the book as to why and how that's not true, and they lead you to believe that, and gaslighting you completely, that you are wrong and you need to second guess yourself. And how could you even think this? That's not what's happening. If your gut tells you that your child is not making progress and it's not working and it's just eating at you and you haven't seen reliable, solid documentation as to them improving, then you need to go with your gut. All right. So let's move on to transitions. Okay. And these are all regarding questions that you, parents, ask kind of throughout the steps of special ed, and how it works, So transitions, ask yourself, what assessments were used, which is going back to the beginning, like I was talking about, what assessments were used in those evaluations, all right, to determine where your child is, all right, and what their plans are in developing the goals, all right, to further your child's education, employment, and independent living after high school. The reason I say that, you may be like, what is employment and independent living? What does all that have to do with anything? Well, an idea, that's what it states. That's what special education is all about, is preparing your child for further education, employment, and independent living after high school. Okay? That is what IDEA states, all right, of why your child has an IEP. The purpose of the IEP is to provide goals that will further their education, employment, and independent living after high school. All right, write that down, because anytime you use that statement, you build that statement off of goals. If goals are not correlating to them making progress, sufficient progress in working towards that further education, employment, and independent living after high school, then something needs adjusted. Okay? The next thing you want to talk about and think about is assisted technology. Okay? And if that would help your student better reach their goals. That doesn't mean, guys, that because your child likes an iPad and they don't have a whole lot of behavior issues using an iPad and they learn better using an iPad, that they get an iPad. Okay? It has to be a need based on their impact of disability and how their education is progressing or not, etc. So, for example, a child who is blind, would use Braille, and that would be something that's given to them as an assisted technological type product. Okay. As far as children who may need assistance with communication, all right, there's different apps that are put onto an iPad or a computer, etc. Typically, it's an iPad that help in assisting that child press what words they want to use in communicating. So there's different reasons that technology can assist your child. but don't think they're just going to be given an iPad. They'd be given an iPad. Okay? So do you agree or do you disagree? All right. So who do you contact if you disagree with the IEP? If you disagree with what's in the present levels and, it's not right, you need to change it. You need to find out who you contact. Is it the team? Is it the special education teacher? Who do you contact first? All right. Typically, it's the case manager, but you can CC the whole team. If it's a serious problem and it's not being solved with the case manager, then you want to CC the director of special education. All right. So I would say case manager and then director of special education. Or you can always CC the director of special education. You can, I see no problems with that. I do it. So make sure that you know who to contact. All right. And if you disagree, that always needs to go in writing. Always. So when can you expect to receive the proposed IEP? This is a thing that a lot of people talk about, and there's a lot of talk about it as to what's proper, what's not. And really, bottom line, it's all opinion. So when it comes to a draft IEP, that is in the commentary of IDEA, it is not advised at all. The reason it's not advised at all is because it's basically the team excluding you, which you're a part of the team, excluding you from decision making. Now, on the contrary, you can receive a draft IEP. I see no problem with it. If and only if it's a draft and they say to you, hey, here's a draft. These are the proposed goals. We understand that this is something that we're going to discuss as a team at the IEP meeting. So if it's provided to you with that understanding and that written out for clarity, and it includes the proposed goals going into that IEP meeting so that you can look at them in advance, then I see no problems with that. But they need to verbalize that they understand that you're as much a part of the team as they are, and that they understand that you are going to contribute, and that the whole IEP is going to be discussed in that IEP meeting. That the whole point of the draft was to give you the goals in advance and for you to review what is put in there. Okay? But as far as IDEA and the commentary, you can look it up. It is not advised at all. Okay? But the reason of it not being advised is because of you being taken out of the team decision. Okay? All right. So the next thing that we're going to talk about, all right, is what are the steps do you need to take if you agree or disagree with the IEP? Okay, so if you agree and you disagree, and it's the same step. All right, so unless you're going up the levels as far as who you're speaking to, as far as if you agree or you disagree, put it in writing. That's it. Everything goes in writing. I don't advise phone calls and phone call conversations unless it's an emergency. And if it is, then the minute they call you, you say, hey, hang on just 1 second, and you click your Rev call recorder that I've told you guys about. REV call recorder. It's an app. All right. And so you just press incoming call. Then it immediately goes to, if you have an iPhone, an incoming call, and you press merge, done. Then you say, okay, thanks for holding on for a second. Sorry. And then you start talking and it's recording. All right. So you always want to record your IEP meetings, phone calls. Now, in some states are two-party states, and it's illegal to record without permission. So make sure you know if you're a one or two party state. If you're one party, you don't have to do anything, just record. All right, I'm in a one party state. If you're in a two party state, you have to say, hi, I would like to record this IEP meeting. Is that okay with you? And I have no problems with you recording it as well. If a school system has issues with you recording an IEP meeting, there's a problem with that. Why is that? Why can't I record it? I'm saying you can record it too. And you want to put that in writing ahead of time, ahead of the meeting, so they can plan to record it. Because if they don't allow you to record it, you want to know why. All right? You're saying to them, you can record too. So what's the problem with that? I would really dig deep into that and not just accept any response. All right? So again, post a 1 below if you're new, 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. All right? Especially you replay people. All right. So the next thing is you want to move on to exiting special education. Is that going to happen? Are they going to drop my services? What happens if they drop your services? Can they drop your services? Yes, they can. And if they do, what do you do? All right. So first you want to look at what was dropped and why. Always, always, a PWN should be given to you, which is a prior written notice. And that is a notice that's given to you in regards to what the school agrees to, what they disagree to, and what was discussed in the IEP. Anytime they take away something, a PWN is provided, all right? Or even if they add something. So if they take away something, then you're given a PWN with the reasoning. Make sure it's detailed. It has to be detailed as to what they went off of. And if they didn't go off of data, then that's a problem. Okay? They can't just say based off of observation. Well, observation of what? Was that a good day? You know? How much observation did you do? Did you take data when you were observing? If you did, can I see it? You want to make sure you dig really deep with that one, all right? And don't allow that to just happen. And then you have rights, all right? If they're not responding to you, if they're not allowing you to disagree and then provide you with the information that you're entitled to, like the documentation. No service, accommodation, or modification should ever be taken without reasoning. And they should always have something to support why they're taking something away. If they have nothing, no documentation as to why that was taken away, then they need to give it back and you need to fight for it. Okay? And if they took it away and they do have sufficient documentation, then you need to ask yourself, is this worth a fight? Which a lot of times it is, or is it not? Okay? So make sure that you do that, all right? So the last thing I want to talk to you about, I'm going to have to charge my computer in a second, is you want to ask questions in regards to what do you want to know more about, all right? And you always need to ask that question. Would you tell me more about, please, all right? Would you tell me more about blank, all right? Or what are other options that we can consider here? You know, be an open book in regards to suggesting options. When I can talk, suggesting options that you feel could work. Offer suggestions and make sure that they're open to taking them, and you do the same. All right. And then think about, do you all agree that blank should happen? All right. So you want to make sure that there's an agreement based off of what is needed and appropriate in regards to your child. And if there's ever disagreement in regards to what is needed and appropriate for your child and your child's specific needs, then a problem is going to arise, okay? Because by law, the school system has to adhere to IDEA, all right? And there's state laws, but both state that the school system has to provide each and every child with special needs what's needed and appropriate for them. Okay? All right, so there you have it. Those are the questions parents typically ask each step of the way during the IEP and special education process. And I wanted you guys to hear that because it's kind of important right now. Let me try to get my charger. Is it here? Yes. Okay. So make sure that you are clear on what you need to ask for and that you're clear on the importance of why understanding the whole process is important. Okay, so I think that with as many parents, especially right now, who are really paying attention to what's going on with this COVID thing, how is it impacting their child right here and now. I was even talking on my group how right now you guys have a gut feeling and know if things are working out. That doesn't mean you're a bad teacher. It just means, is the change working for your child or is it not? Some kids don't learn in the home. Sometimes they have to go to school and other places to learn. So figure out what's going on with your child right now. Figure out if there's certain things that are going to have to be put in place that weren't in place when they left school, when all this went down, right? So just start asking yourself certain questions and make sure that you're fully aware, of what's going on with your kids, and build from there. But the goals you should be going off of is the ones in your IEP and the most recent progress report, dependent on, typically in progress reports, there's like numbers as to what's mastery, what's progress, what's sufficient progress. You know what I mean? They haven't started it at all, etc. And so those are the goals that you want to go off of and then build off that. All right? So keep it super simple and let your child learn in regards to what their goals are as long as they're appropriate. All right, like I said, if you've got a messed up IEP and you need a whole makeover, then set up a free discovery call with me. You can click it above and set that up, okay, if you want to discuss anything. All right, so we have Diaz. Hello, welcome. And don't forget, you replayers, post a 1 below if you're new, a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. My son's 14 with an IEP, autism diagnosis, and he can't keep up with his work. All right, so simple accommodations are good for that, which is that they get longer periods of time to turn in their work. It's a super duper easy accommodation, So, and sometimes it can be where he gets less work, So you have to kind of decide which route you want to go. Would you rather him do the work and just have more time, or would you rather him, Sally, you have put your number down like 3-4 times. You're so funny. And you want to figure out which route you want to go. Do you want to go where he has the work that's given to all the other kids and he gets more time, or do you want him to get less work? All right. Sally says, sorry, I mean she refused to stop it, assistant technology. All right, let me go up to the top. How the name of the professional for autism assessment asking for IE. Could you repeat? I told you that because I have 2 autism diagnoses, but the school made the assessment by psychology and they don't see my son under autism. Okay, I see what you're saying. All right, so it doesn't matter what the school says. If your child's been diagnosed with autism, then that needs to go into their IEP. Do they have to put it in the IEP? We've had this conversation before. No, but they should. Why wouldn't they? There's no reason for them not to, because autism doesn't all of a sudden qualify a child for special ed. The autism has to have impact on education. So autism is a disability. What, in regards to autism, impacts the child's education? That's what allows a child to get special ed. Okay. And professional for autism assessment. I would go to a developmental pediatrician. Okay. Marcella says, can you give me your thoughts on extended school year with COVID? Well, if it's going to be an option in your area, then go for it. I would. So that's why I said, if you're doing the challenge over in the group, that's why I've talked a lot about that, of why you're doing what I've asked you to do and why it's important. All right. Like taking notes, recording, sending those weekly emails, sending impactful recordings. That's you documenting in every which way, shape, and form of what's going on, what you're doing, the impactful videos of maybe a meltdown, regression, etc., new things that are happening that they may not know about, and you want to make sure that those things are completely documented. And the only way for them to believe you right now is to see it, not your word, even though typically if it's not in writing, it never happened. Right now, yes, you want to put it in writing, but you got to videotape, because they're not going to believe a word you say once school starts. All right. So if extended school year is offered, you need to go for it. So if that's an answer to your question, hopefully it is. Welcome Monique and Marcella and Jessica. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Stephanie. And Jennifer says he is doing Zoom with his classmates. That's awesome. Sally says, I have a problem. My son is verbal with 1 to 2 words, friendly, and is using assistant technology. I don't think is helping him, but speech therapy is refused to use it. Speech therapies refuse to use what? The assistive technology? All right, then Sally says wonderful tips. Dia says, okay. So, yeah, so I answered everybody's question. Stephanie says, I will get the results from my daughter's IEP tomorrow. What do you mean the results from the IEP? You mean an evaluation? Should I accept first draft? This is first time with one. What do you mean results? I'm confused by that, because results are in regard to like an evaluation or some sort of test. So was that maybe the wrong word? Are you saying that tomorrow you'll get a copy of the IEP? What do you mean? So with that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the tips today. I will be going live pretty soon again. I'm going to try to go live a lot more. Like you guys know, I have. So Stephanie, if you don't answer now, go ahead and post it later and I will answer your question. Hopefully I kind of understood that. But I need clarification so I can answer it properly. Her first IEP meeting. Yes. Okay. So what is it you're getting some sort of results or something for tomorrow? So I will be going live a little bit later, maybe Saturday, definitely by Sunday. I'm getting ready to hop over to the group for, I think it's day 17 of the IEP challenge. And so we're going to be talking about some different things there. All right. So I will talk to you guys soon. Stephanie, go ahead and post. If you had her first IEP meeting, and I'm just not sure what you're getting tomorrow, unless it's a copy of the IEP. If you're getting a copy of the IEP, take it home, read it again. If it's your first time, I would have, somebody look at it that knows what they're doing, and advise you on if it's appropriate. Because if you're just beginning, that is the time to get it right. All right. Don't make the mistakes I made and wait and, learn by the trial and error and waste all that time, Later on, I went and got certified as an advocate with Rights Law and COPA, but I learned through the trenches. So don't put yourself through that. And okay, a copy. So get the copy, read it, read it, read it, read it for a whole week. But here's the thing is if you don't understand what you're reading, it's going to be a problem. So until people learn how to read an IEP, I always suggest having someone read it with you. So Stephanie, go ahead and PM me and we can set up a call. All right. And I'm actually going to go on to Active Campaign, or is it Acuity, and change up my discovery call hours so that you guys can have them more closer to right now. All right. So if you want to set up a discovery call, they are free, and you just go up to the top and click that and set up a discovery call. But Stephanie, if you want, just PM me and we'll set up a time to talk. Okay. And I would say read it yourself. And yes, you can scan and send me a copy at support@autismmamarockstheiep.com. And I'll create a file for you in Google Drive with your name on it, and we can talk, okay? And go from there. All right? All right, guys. So, but you read it yourself, and we'll set up a call like Monday or Tuesday. All right? You read it and kind of acclimate to it through the weekend, and then we'll talk next week. All right, guys, I will talk to you soon. Have a wonderful Thursday. It still seems like every day runs into each other, that weekends don't even matter anymore. But I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and hopefully all this stuff goes away so that we can start enjoying spring and then summer. And we will definitely jump into ESY a lot more coming up, because it is going to be open in some areas, and I think it's important for you to get it if you can. All right, so stay tuned. And I'm going to hop over to the group now and give them their day 18 of the challenge, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.